Hey everyone, today we're diving into some essential Excel functions that are going to make cleaning and organizing data a breeze. So let's talk about trim, find, mid, left, right, and concatenate, along with a few others. These are some of the most powerful tools for transforming messy data into clean, structured insights. So we'll go ahead and get started. I will share my screen. Okay, so now that you see the screen, the first thing we're going to work on is actually trimming data. So if you've ever copied data with weird spaces, trim is your best friend. So we're going to say equals trim. And you see how the zip codes have spaces. So some have two spaces. It looks like some have one. So we're just going to trim these spaces off the front, okay, to clean up the zip codes. So we're going to tell it which cell to trim. And that's it. And then we're just going to pull the trim down. And so that helps us get the weird spaces out of the way. So and it can remove extra spaces before, after, or between words. So it'll get rid of any of those extra wonky spaces. And I'll just expand that to make sure we have enough room. And now what we're going to do, left, right allows us to get specific parts of data. So if you need the first or last few characters, left and right have you covered. So left, we would say equals left. Now I'm going to use my trimmed data here because over here, if I did left, it would pull spaces in as well. So I'm going to use the nice trimmed data that we have, and I'm just going to pull left, cell B2, the trimmed data, and I'm going to go 5. All right, because the zip code itself, if I only want the first 5 digits of the zip code and not the extended zip code, then I would just say left, comma, 5. Okay, there we are. We have just the first 4 characters of the zip codes pulling in. Another tip I'll give is that anytime you get data, like whether it's from a client, whatever you're using, you want to make sure that where you're cleaning the data, that you have new columns. And I try not to manipulate the original data. So I try to always leave my original data intact, unclean, so that if I ever needed to look back, and if I mess up anything, I always have the original data to go back to. So right, I would say equals right. If I wanted to pull just the extended piece of the zip code, so maybe just the last 4 digits, I would say I want the rightmost 4 characters. And we're going to pull 4. And there we are, 4812. And if there were any spaces on the end because I trimmed it, I got rid of any of those spaces. Okay, so it's just the actual data. What if I want just the dash, okay, in the middle? Just the dash. Well, you can use what's called mid. So if you don't want the left or the beginning or the last, right, end of the characters, but you want something that's anywhere in the middle, all right, you could use the mid formula. So you could say equals mid. And what you want to tell it is where you want to pull it from. So we know we want to pull it from this extended zip code in cell B2, but we actually could tell it where to start. So since our dash, sorry, starts with the 6th character, because we have 30701 dash, we would say we're going 6 characters in, and I only want 1 character. I only want the dash. So I'm going to say comma 1. Okay. If I wanted the dash and the 4, I would say comma 2. But we only want the dash. And so now we can pull the dash out of all of our zip codes. So now we have expanded the front part of the zip code with the extended part and the dash. But what if I want to join them back together? Okay, so this is where we would use the concat function. Whoops. And it basically says once you've cleaned data, then you can rejoin it. If you were to need to things put together. Sometimes when I'm grading students' papers, I need like a number sign in front of their special code. And so I'll have to add that in. And CONCAT is a very good tool to do that. So let's just say I want to rejoin these zip codes that we've pulled apart. So I'm going to use the left, right, and mid columns, and I'm going to just rejoin my zip code. So I'm going to say concat, and then you're going to tell it what you are concatenating, what you are rejoining. And so we're going to say we're joining the left part of the zip code with the mid, with the right. You can concat or join as many things as you want. And there we have our zip code. So the same data essentially that we have in column B2, we have rejoined in column F. There we go. And so that's concat. Another way to do it, you could just use an and sign, all right? An ampersand. So you could say equals 30701 and mid and right. Also works. So that is a good tool if you want to rejoin data. So now we're going to get into a little more complex, just a few other things that are harder to do, and what you might want to use, right? If you're pulling out things with different numbers. So all of the numbers up here, the zip codes had 5 digits and the extended had 4. But what if we had names, right? They have a different number of characters. So how would we extract pieces we need of the data when there are different numbers of characters in the data? So first we'll trim our data because we do have some wonky spaces up here in the front and at the end of the data. So we're just going to trim the data first. Okay, I'll expand that so we can see. Now we're going to use a tool called find, and that just allows us to find a piece of the data and tell us the location. So it's going to say, what is the location, as in how many characters in is this data I'm looking for? So it's going to find it. So equals find, and we're going to say NA2, okay, I want you to find ID. So we're going to put it in quotes, okay. Whoops, messed that one up. Oh, I always do this backward, so don't do it backward like I did. You're going to say find, you're going to tell it what to find first. So ID, there we go. Then tell it the cell that you want it to find it in. All right, and it tells us the ID is actually location 14. That means that if I did now A9, it's 14 in because we have spaces. But the better way, honestly, would be to use the trimmed data here, like I did above, so that the spaces aren't part of the characters we're counting. So we're actually going to change this A9 to B9. And now it tells me the ID starts at location 11, all right, in the characters. So we could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 starts the I. So that what it found starts at character 11. So we can pull that down. So because the first and last names are all different lengths, the locations are different, right? And where ID starts. So what if we wanted to pull out the digits, okay, in the Tom Doe dash ID? What if we want to pull out the ID itself? We would say we would combine mid and find. Okay, so we know how mid pulls out something in the middle here. Well, assuming if this had spaces on the end, it would still be a mid. You could also use a right here because we did clean the space off, but we're going to stick with mid just to illustrate. So you're going to say equals, all right, you're going to take the mid of B2, okay, you're saying I want to find something in the middle, but I'm going to tell it to find ID, okay, in B2. So it's going to find the ID. All right. And we're going to go 4 in, okay, because 1, 2, 3, 4 in is where the digits start, okay? And then we're going to say comma 5 because we want all 5 digits at the end. And there we have the ID. Now you could also, let's say I just wanted to pull ID out, okay? So then, all right, instead of pulling out the digits, you would say, I'm going to take the middle of this. Once I find ID, all right, I'm going to go 4 over and go 5 deep. I would just say find ID, all right? And I'm not going to go any over, right? It would be essentially comma 2 ID. And see, even though ID is in a different location in all of these, it could find and pull out ID from the middle. The last thing I'm going to do is show you how to pull out the first and last names. So again, I mentioned that the first and last names are all different characters, right? We have however 8 in Tom Doe or 7 in Tom Doe, X in Jennifer Smith, right? Different number of characters. So we're going to actually have to tell it to take the left, right, of a certain length, all right, minus a certain number of digits. So we're going to say we want to take the left, right, of this this data, but we want to take the total length minus however many digits are here. Okay. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're going to subtract 12 digits to pull out the first and last names for all of these. So we're going to say equals, and we're going to say left. Whoops. All right. And we're going to take the left of what? Well, the left of the cleaned or trimmed data, comma, the length of this. All right. We're taking the left of the entire length minus 12. And I think, there we go. Tom Doe. Okay, so essentially, even though all of the first and last names are different number of characters, we can say, well, that's okay. Just take the left of all of this, but subtract out the length of the space over to the digit. So this space all the way over to the digit for all of them. Okay, because lucky for us, all the digits were the same there at the end. You could also use a find or substitute formula if they weren't equal, but lucky for us, that works. So if you have names or countries or things that are different number of characters and you need to pull out all of those names, that's a good way to do it. So these functions save time, reduce errors, and make your data clean, structured, and ready for analysis. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you guys soon.